Christmas Eve, Winter Farran. I was delighted last week actually to be out with you in the celebration of the centenary of the church. And it was a great honour for me to be asked by the people and by the priests to come and celebrate the great occasion with you. My name is Father Galvin, and I worked in Farran from the years 1967 to 1970. I was a young man then. I've been to 4 or 5 parishes since, but I've very, very happy memories of my days in Farran, and they were really happy because there were such wonderful people in Farran at the time. And my memories go back, I suppose, my parish priest at the time was Canon Joe Farran, and he was deaf. And he had a boy with him, John Coleman. Some of you may have remembered him, the older people who worked with him. And John is here in my parish now, here in Passage West, and is still hale and hearty, and I meet him very, very often. Also, when I think back actually on those days, I think of people who were so kind and so good to me in those, and one in particular that I would have to mention would be Henny Deasy. And Henny lived with her family up in the farm, and came to Mass every morning, brought milk to me every day, fresh milk. There was no such thing at that time, I don't think, of milk being
pasteurized.
There was no such thing as pasteurized milk. It was straight from the cow, and usually it was the strippings, as many of the older farmers would remember, that after they had finished the milking, they went back then, and the best of the milk was in the stripping. Mickey Farran, who was postman and who opened the church and closed the church and rang the bell, he's another man that comes to mind, and a very kind and loving and heartwarming man to be in that time in Farran. I remember actually at that time that the church was in very poor nick, and it wasn't easy actually even that time to get money to do up the church. So having spoken with Canon Farran, that we decided to sell the old school down at the end of the road there, and that after having got that money we decided to spend it on the church. And all the dry lining that's on the walls, that was done back at that time, about 1968. And then we decided that this is the road is so narrow outside, the people coming out driving, people are having cars, and more people are getting more and more cars, that it was time, we thought, that maybe a car park. And all that garden, where the car park is now, that actually was a vegetable garden, but no use of made it, so we decided to make a car park from it. And that the car park actually was bulldozed by a man named Frankie O'Callaghan, and Frankie will be well known in the Aerogue club, Frankie. And then when it came to filling and all the stones and so on like that, that Jimmy Welch from Killarney, that Jimmy brought along his steam engine roller, and that he rolled the whole car park, and we had to do it in 2 tiers because of the rock, the upper car park and the lower car park. And eventually that today, it's having seen it in the past few days when I was over with you, that it looks beautiful, and that it's really, the people are able to come and drive in and drive out carefully. The other thing that comes to my mind actually in my memories of, there are so many memories, it's hard to include them all. The builders of the time doing the church were Joseph Lane. They were in Monaghan Road in Cork, and that they came out from Cork, and it was the time of the bank strike, and there was no money at that time being dished out. People were paid actually by cash at that time. And my Sunday collection was taking the pennies and the shillings and the 2 shillings. There were very little 10 shillings, but that money was taken by Joseph Lane to pay the workmen that were doing it. And The roof of the church actually was done by a man in Farran's, Dan Hurley, and his brother. That there were two great plasterers and two great roof men, and all that roof, and as you know, it's a very steep roof. And I suppose as I look back, I shudder when I think that I climbed up to the top of that roof, walked along the tip top of the church, all along it, and came back down again. Nowadays, my goodness, I would absolutely fall into weakness if I had to do that. Also remember actually in the church itself that there was between the main aisle and then the side aisle, there was a railing, and as I looked down from the altar, the right hand side were for the people who gave a penny on Sunday to the collection, and the centre actually was for the people who gave that little bit more. And also I can remember actually where we had the men were all on one side and the ladies were all on the other side. And at that time as well, I suppose my recollection actually were that on the Sundays that we had Men's Sunday, where men had to go to confession every month, and we had the Men's Sunday, we had the Women's Sunday, and then we had the Children's Sunday, and people took it very seriously. My goodness, how times have changed in 2011, that we hardly see anybody now for confession, you know, but it was great actually at that time. And farmers would be coming in late Saturday night, you know, having to shave, and there were no electric razors or anything like that. It was usually the cutthroat and maybe a bit of paper stuck in a cut or something like that to keep it from bleeding, but that they did come actually to the confession. It's another memory that I have of my time in farm. Oh yes, I went around to the stations, and my job actually was hearing confessions. And people are a small bit slow and reluctant maybe in going to confession, but Canon Heron actually was the main celebrant, and that's the big thing actually was afterwards actually that the breakfast, and that consisted of grapefruit, mostly from the tin, I would say at the time, which was beautiful, with a cherry on top of it, and then you got a boiled egg, or maybe ham, or they might have boiled lamb the day before, or mutton we used to call it that time, or a bit of beef, and that was that. And I think most people actually were waiting for the priest to go, because the bottle was never brought out until the priest had gone from the station, and then people enjoyed it. And these went on actually since there were two places actually between Farran and Ovens, that we spent the most of 6 weeks actually, maybe 2 or 3 mornings, nearly always mornings a week, out on the station mass. The other things that come to my mind actually were the postmistress was John Lyons below at Farran Cross, and then I also look back actually that time a priest on duty was a very important part of a priestly life, and that most things were done by phone, and we had no dial phone or anything like that. You picked up your phone, it was answered over in Naharla, and she actually was doing duty for a lot of priests from Clodove and from Farran and from Ovens, that it was she who would take the calls, and if there was a sick call, you rang her, and she was able to contact the priest at some stage. So that actually, the other person that comes to my mind actually, even though at the time she wasn't part of the Catholic population in Farran, was Mrs. Clark below in the mansion down Farran Hill. And it was a great pleasure of mine actually that she invited me time and time again to go down for afternoon tea. And being from the country myself, having come from a place like Ballingeary, I wouldn't have been used to china cups and plates and silver knives and so on like that. But this was very special, and even the people who brought the tea were all dressed in black and dressed with a white bib and so on. And we sat down with Mrs. Clark, and as I look back again, actually, I was saying, how in the name of goodness did she stick me? But she did. And this was a regular a visit, maybe once every 2 months, that she would invite me down for afternoon tea. the other big thing I suppose that comes to my mind actually was at the time that water was mostly taken from wells around the people dug their own well in the field near them or in the backyard and wherever it is. And the old well actually, which was up the road, I forget what the name of the road is now, but it was up beyond Bill Leary's house. And in that well, that with a group of men, decided actually that we'd make an effort to maybe start a group water scheme. And there was a lot involved, but it didn't deter us actually. And the first thing was to get the permission of the county council to get the water tested to make sure that it was okay, and then to lay pipes down along the road. And when I think back actually that there's a lot of rock around that area, and that we had to use gelignite at that time just to blow away the rock and then dig it out after with a JCB. And in that way that the water scheme begun, and I know it is still going today, I believe, and that it was a great boom for the people of Farran at the time. Many of the people I knew, and as I had to work as well down in Ovens, that there were many people there as well that I got to know and love actually during my time there. It was only short 3 years, and one morning a letter came to me from Bishop Lucy that terminating my appointment in Farran and appointing me as from that into the city, which was my first visit to the city and to St. Joseph's in Mayfield. So looking back, people of Farran, I have very fond memories of you, and I am delighted actually to be able to say these few words to you. I know of the priests that have been in Farran that I'm probably one of the last survivor of that place, and that as all the other priests have passed to their new life with God, to their eternal reward. And many of the people that I knew as well, and as I see them in the paper, and I would have gone out to their funerals, but I felt it was much easier, just pray for them here at home, and to pray for them in my own church here in Passage West, when I see their deceased, when they have people have died in your parish. So to all the people of Farran, congratulations, Cogardicus, and I hope that all the young people, as they grow up, that they will be able to look back on Farran and the people of Farran and the work that they did in very trying times. So thank you all.